Bathrooms were all flooded and unusable. Even if the wind hadn't been drowning him out, I wouldn't have been able to hear him. There was a group of kids in front of me with Greg Hutchins at the center. Greg wasn't even pretending to pay attention to what the assistant principal was saying. He had his back toward him and was talking loudly, surrounded by a bunch of boys who all wore variations of the same uniform: sports shorts, t-shirts, and baseball hats. I recognized some of them from elementary school. Some of them were new faces. Same look, though, drawn right to Greg like a bunch of mosquitoes to a warm, fleshy cow butt. When we finally got to file into school, the assistant principal pointed right at Greg and pulled him out of the crowd. I couldn't hear what he said, but the finger kept pointing, and the tops of Greg's ears got red. I followed the crush of kids into the lobby, but I kept my eyes down as we passed in front of the glass trophy cases. I knew what I would see there. I had seen it on Step Up Day when our 8th grade tour guide stopped there to show off the school trophies for everything from basketball and football to math team and the state geography bee. On a special shelf were pictures of every student who had ever won the Principal's Award for all-around attitude, effort, and achievement at Feltzer-Harding Middle School. And there, shining out at me in full color, his dirty blonde hair falling partially in his eyes, was the 8th grade version of my brother. Any teacher I ever had who'd had Charlie too, and that was most of them because our town was so small, practically fell out of their seat when I told them that, yes, I was related to that Charlie Barnes. And for the first week or so, I could do no wrong. But then, slowly, the shine would rub off. I couldn't keep up, even with his memory. Charlie was 9 years older, so I was in preschool when he was in 6th grade at Feltzer-Harding Middle School. When he went off to college, I was only in 4th grade. Less than a year later, he was dead. I learned a lot in 5th grade, but none of it was school stuff. I learned that there are worse things than being the younger brother of an all-star kid like Charlie Barnes. I learned what adults mean when they say spotty attendance. And I learned that even when you stick out for something, it's still possible to feel like you are completely invisible. Chapter 2. Sorry, kids, the first day of school is a lot of paperwork, Mrs. Lynch, my new homeroom teacher, said as she passed out about 1,000 different forms. I know some of you are pretty upset about not jumping right into learning, she said and winked at us. Mrs. Lynch had that seasoned teacher look, a bunch of pencils sticking out of her bun and a giant coffee mug steaming on her desk. She helped us sort all the papers into 2 piles, things that had to come back with a signature and things that would go home and stay home. This is the most important one, Mrs. Lynch said, holding up Sadie Gillespie's double-sided parent contact and information sheet. I flipped mine over, relieved to see that Mom's information was still on it. Not that it would do anyone any good. Mom hadn't answered her phone since she left 3 weeks ago. Not even for Dad. I knew because I heard him cursing about it when he thought I was in the shower. I stared down at the even lines of formal print, thinking about how even their detailed contact information didn't have the answers I wanted. Dad worked for a heating and insulation company, and Mom was a waitress at Town Line Diner. Mom had listed Dad's parents as a backup contact, even though I hadn't seen or heard from them, except for a card at Christmas, since Charlie died. The other emergency contact was Mom's friend and boss at the diner, Rosie. There had better not be any emergencies that Dad couldn't handle because there wasn't much left for backup. I stuffed the papers into my bag and half-listened as Mrs. Lynch went over the bell schedule for the first day and assigned us lockers. Robbie had the locker next to mine, since they were assigned alphabetically, and Belcher came right after Barnes. I stuck my empty backpack in and watched as Robbie unloaded new notebooks, pencils, highlighters, and index cards, all still in their plastic wrapping. He shrugged sheepishly. My mom likes to get this stuff as soon as she gets the list. I didn't know there was a list, I mumbled. I think they emailed it to us, Robbie said. Right. No home computer at our house. No mom, no phone, no email.